of what they're looking for in terms of square footage and typically the number of students that they would put in those classrooms. That becomes something that's a function of the district to decide, do you want to take some of your locally funded initiatives and add a classroom or two to be able to bring your class sizes down a little bit, okay? Those would be decisions that we would have to make, but anytime you look at doing that, you also have to look at the long-term cost of what does that add for the number of teachers that you have? And that definitely adds to the cost of your budget. I would love to be able to say that we could have ideal class numbers everywhere in the district and just be, again, sitting at very ideal class numbers. Unfortunately, our budget is not at that level at the moment, okay? We have to be very careful, and I'll talk about that more in the next part of the program as far as how we right-size the district to make sure that we are spending our dollars wisely.
Something else came to me. So air conditioning, and I'm not an engineer, but my engineering friends geek out on this stuff. So at Milton Union, there's this technique called peak shaving. Peak shaving. So air conditioning for inexpensive. Peak shaving theory is electric usage rates are higher during the day and lower at night. So we do an ice storage system to the central plant that makes ice at night when electric rates are lowest. And in the day, we use that ice to cool the water to air condition the building during the day. So that's called an ice storage system, part of a peak shaving strategy, which can be implemented in a central plant and save significant dollars while air conditioning at the same time.
Yes?
I just wondered about projections for enrollment. I know you had mentioned that enrollment has steadily declined recently. What were the projections? Is it projected to increase? What, in the past, with districts that have built new facilities, has enrollment in those facilities increased based simply on the building of new facilities? Or in a community where there may not be a lot of job growth, do you see, enrollment increasing when it's already on a steady decline? What's the projection for that?
The question is what's the projection for the future of what might happen if we do build new buildings, okay? And the answer to that is I don't really have the crystal ball to be able to say exactly what would happen. That is incumbent on all of those factors that you mentioned. What is actually happening in the community in terms of job growth? And it would be all over the map because these types of facilities funded by the OFCC have been built throughout the entire state. So if you're looking at, say, the Columbus area and an Olentangy that's adding another high school to where they started with one and they're now at 3 and they may be building and getting ready for the 4th because the population has exploded there. So that's the extreme one way. And then there have definitely been some where even after building new facilities, say a local business that had a lot of jobs went away. And so it would be all over the map, but I can't tell you exactly what that projection is. All we can do is go with the number, and the number that you see here is what the projection was, and it's probably pretty close to where we're at right now. It's slated for about 3,200, and we're just a little bit under 3,250, I believe, right now in our population. So it's pretty steady.
Are there any projections on increasing enrollment in STEM programs or vocational-based programs or online programs?
Are there projections or are there numbers to back up those other programs?
Of enrollment in those type of alternative schools would increase?
Not that I'm aware of. I mean, obviously, the STEM school, or GISA, just added a middle school program. That definitely took some of our students from both middle schools. I believe they're right now at capacity. Now, I don't know that they wouldn't add on and that number could go higher, but right now, what we are projecting is that the number of students is kind of at a max of what can go to GISA. Could they do an elementary down the road? I don't really know what their space constraints are and what they could actually do in their current facility or whether they would need to build. But right now, we're really trying to do all we can to keep the students we have by taking care of our own business, improving our curriculums, adding technology, passing this bond issue. It's critical to pass this bond issue to keep our population. All of the buildings and districts around us, with the exception of Southeastern, who I believe has done quite a few upgrades and are looking to add to their facility as well, will have new facilities. New facilities definitely attract families from old facilities. Yes?
Has transportation been included in this cost, and will the garage and maintenance areas stay at the northeastern facility?
Has transportation been factored into this? And the answer to that is transportation has to be factored in, but we haven't decided exactly whether it would stay where it's at, or potentially, you maybe saw in one of the slides that Central Office of Transportation could go to Rolling Hills. Or what could potentially happen is if we continue to maintain space in both places, that we actually split transportation and put the buses that are mainly on the KR side at a location on this side and the northeastern over there, but we would only maintain one physical garage to work on the buses. That would only make sense to say we're going to have, you know, our mechanics in one central location to be able to do that maintenance. Wouldn't make sense to do two maintenance
But
facilities.
that cost is included in, or those?
That is not actually included in the cost of the bond issue. The state does not co-fund board office space, transportation facility space, those types of areas. So that would be something that would have to come out of the locally funded initiative, or potentially that might be something that happens down the road if what was mentioned about maybe selling a property and the proceeds from that could be specifically used to take care of something else. Yes?
I agree with your statement about new facilities will attract and keep kids here, so I'm with you there. What other schools have you built?
Well, I haven't built any.
Not you.
What other schools have you built? And I'm going to turn that over to Mike because it's quite a few.
Sure. So my office is in Dayton, so most of our work is out of the Dayton region. The most recent high school we did was the new Northmont High School, which I don't know if anyone has been in. We did
If you haven't gone, go
What's
see
that?
it. If you've never been there, go see it.
Thank you. So that is, we do the Thunderdome there, and it's just an awesome facility. The thing I'll mention about Northmont's a 270,000 square foot building, which is approximately the size of what we're talking about for the Kittredge side. You can do a lot with the building. You can do an incredibly powerful, compelling building at that scale. Northmont features some really great public space, student interaction space. The student dining room just kind of flows through Thunderbolt Way. We just did a high school addition to Bethel. We did the Milton Union K-12 school, which is right here. This building is 218,000 square feet, so a little smaller than KR and a little bigger than the Northeastern side. This building is operating at 63 cents per square foot energy cost. I believe the leader for sure in the state of Ohio, because they wanted to do solar and wind and ice storage, and at Milton we're flushing toilets with rainwater. They want to do it all. So that was a great project. We did Oakwood schools, we did Kettering City schools. We're really proud of the Performing Arts Center. We did at Fairmont High School. I don't know if there's any band folks in here. The Fairmont Band and the Performing Arts piece there is awesome in terms of what that provides. We did Trent Arena there at Fairmont High School. We did all the Washington Courthouse schools. We did Greenview Middle School. We're at Yellow Springs. They're on the ballot here May 8th for a high school edition.
Okay, Mike.
A lot. But here's my favorite job, though, is always my next one. Because seriously, the team, we're always learning and getting better. The Thunderdome at Northmont is Trent Arena 2.0.
On the selection and when we interviewed design firms to help with the consulting, it's not a guarantee, because we are partnering with the OFCC, that we actually have to go through their process to be able to select the design firm that would be used. Now, we don't know of any projects where they had a consultant working with the district that hasn't been able to have that consultant continue on. And obviously that's my hope, that we're able to continue to use Mike and Mark as we work forward. Because again, time and not here again, till 10 or 11. So in Plan B, what happens if the bond issue doesn't pass? And the first thing that I want to say is that I went to the board and said if we don't pass the bond issue, financially we're not in a position to where we continue to keep doing exactly what we're doing. We have 5 aging buildings. We have a little bit of declining enrollment. We're bleeding money trying to fix and maintain our facilities. And I recommended that we share with the community a plan for consolidation. Because we have to do something different. If we pass the bond issue, we're really consolidating. We're going from 5 buildings to 2. If we don't pass the bond issue, we're looking at going from 5 buildings to 4. And the board had a tough decision to make because we had 4 or 5 different plans that we shared. There was community input, but it was a tough decision. Not one that was probably popular with some. With others it might have been popular. Depends on where you're at and which plan you may have liked the best. What I want to focus on is I'm going to share what this is, but I never want to have to implement it. We need to pass this bond issue because this plan is going to cause a lot of pain and heartache for some of the district, no matter where you're at. But we have to make sure that we're balancing our budget. And we'll talk a lot more about that budget. The plan is, if it doesn't pass, to close Rolling Hills. And first of all, this would not be for next year. It would be a year away. Because it's going to take time to figure out exactly how we pull all of this together. We know we would have to add some modulars at particular buildings. You don't just pull that off in a 3-month window of time. We want to make sure we do it the very best that we can if we have to do it. So Rolling Hills, our smallest building, the fewest number of students to displace, even though it's maybe one of our best condition-wise, would be the one that would close. Northridge and South Vienna would both be pre-K 5 facilities, an elementary on each side of the district, because we didn't want to do bus transportation and move our elementary students all over the district, even though it may have been most economical to say we were going to have one building to house K-3, another building to do 4-6, and so on. Kenton Ridge would become the middle school, grades 6-8, and Northeastern, the high school, grades 9-12. With this plan, save right at $1 million to be able to try and upgrade. It won't do it all. We will still have aging facilities. We will still need to likely come back to the community at some point in time and say, we need to continue to update our plan. And if our plan is that we're just going to continue to fix our older buildings, then we're probably going to have to look potentially at a levy for just PI. Or there may be another bond issue plan out there down the road. Again, hopefully we would never have to implement this plan. But in some respects, it kind of gives the voters a choice. We have the 2 pre-K-12s and basically still having 2 high schools. The consolidation plan goes to a single high school and a single middle school. That economy of scale definitely saves, and that's part of the $1 million savings. All right? So again, it is definitely very contrary to what the bond issue is for. You can see these depicted, what our current looked like, and now what that consolidation plan would look like. I'll be glad to take questions on that, but I want to make sure that we also talk about some things that have come up, either have come to me directly as questions of, can we do this or can we do that? I'll answer a few of those, and then again, we'll be glad to take questions on the plan. What about splitting the district in 2 and just having 2 separate districts, a Northeastern and a Kenton Ridge? That question came up a couple different times to me. The research on that of how that can think 30, 40 years ago to try and really bring down the number of, the Catawbas and the South Viennas and all of those smaller buildings into larger facilities. They really don't want to go back the other way. It is not a financial savings to the district. It would be more expensive than what we currently have. And the other piece is both of those sides of the district would need to be able to financially support themselves. And that actually can't happen. So this isn't a process that could work and is not able to be done in terms of taking our current district and basically splitting it in two. How's the 1% earned income tax been spent? Well, it's been spent on a number of different things. And part of those dollars have been saved. Because when you pass property tax levies, they never generate any more money. The earned income does. As incomes go up, it generates a little bit more. We have spent dollars from the 1% earned income because it goes into the operating fund and can be spent on basically anything. Textbooks, salaries and benefits, buses, roofs. It can be spent on any of those things, or it can be saved to get to the next year when costs go up. When the levy was passed, there were definitely things that were put out there that said these were things that those dollars were going to be spent on, and they have. We've spent $500,000 on roofs. We did do raises. We felt it was important. The board felt it was important to give our staffs some extra dollars because we feel like we have a quality staff and we want to retain them and not see them go to other districts. That's a chunk of money. We did concrete and paving. We've added security cameras. When I first got here, there were only security cameras in the 2 high schools. We now have security cameras in all the buildings. That was done with 1% earned income dollars, general fund dollars. We've tried to make sure we're maintaining our HVAC systems, not to the point where we can upgrade the controls, but obviously to replace what we have to be able to maintain. The one-to-one technology issue, that costs more dollars to be able to make that happen. Came out of general fund. Part of that obviously funded by the 1% earned income, and that will continue on as we're looking to do that down into the middle school for this upcoming year. School district can't operate in the red. You have to have a 5-year forecast that's approved in October and May. That 5-year forecast is a projection of your finances, your revenues, your expenditures, your carryover dollars for a 5-year period of time. We were showing to be in the red at the end of, or near the end of that forecast. We have maintained that we're trying to right-size our district. And because of that declining enrollment, we cut some teaching positions this past year, or this year. And we'll continue to right-size. We'll probably cut some more teaching positions next year to make sure that we are matching our staffing to our enrollment size. By doing that, we have actually taken our 5-year forecast that we're going to be presenting to the board, and those red numbers are gone. But it also takes into account looking at getting those new buildings on in that 3rd year and the savings that can come from that. Really want to thank Mr. Miller and his expertise in coming over here, because he has brought some tools and some analytics that we just didn't have before, and modeling that will allow us to present to the board, and we're looking at taking them a draft of that a month early, and hopefully with their permission be able to get that posted before it is actually acted upon at the May meeting, so that you can see a draft of that as well before the election. But we have worked very hard to spend your dollars wisely. That means decisions that aren't always popular. But we're really working hard to make that happen. Another big question that comes up then. You're going to get new buildings. We're going to get new buildings. And you're going to ask for operating dollars at the same time. You build the new buildings, and you're asking for operating dollars as you get into those new buildings. With what we have modeled in that 5-year forecast right now, we are not looking to be back for new operating dollars for at least 5 to 7 years. We're hoping it can even be a little bit farther by getting into those new buildings and seeing that economy of scale and the advantages that we have with that to be able to make that go out and last even a little bit farther. There's some variables with that we can't control. The state of Ohio does a biennium budget. We never know what our budget's going to be for any greater length than 2 years at a time. And we are at the mercy of the legislature of whether or not it's going to go up or down or stay the same. Right now we are a guaranteed district, which means that we're guaranteed to get at least the same amount that we got last year, even if our enrollment declines. And right now we're into that guarantee by around 30 students or so. We're hoping that that could go back up, and anytime we get another student, we actually get some extra funding for that student and be off the guarantee. The state in the next biennium budget could say there is not going to be a guarantee. You're only funded for the students that you have. And we would see a drop in our budget. So we can't absolutely guarantee what that state budget number is going to be. And it is approximately 40% of our budget. The earned income tax is about 12%. Obviously, the local share is pretty high as well. Okay? So, with the dollars that we have managed and the right sizing that we have done, the 5-year forecast will be in the black all 5 years. And we're going to look to keep trying to manage those dollars and extend that even farther. We go the other direction. I think we're just the last one's questions. Go the other. Okay. Questions on the consolidation or the splitting the district or the 1% or anything else that ties in to questions that you have? Yes?
Is Northeastern actually large enough to house all high school students? Should they combine?
The capacity for both buildings is just about identical. Okay? Actually, Northeastern High School is just a few thousand square feet different than here, a little bit smaller, but the capacity is still there, and we would have to add some modulars. Even if we had this as the high school, we would still have to add some modulars. Okay? Again, neither of these plans is good with either one being the high school or the middle school. They are basically a plan B that we hope to, again, never have to implement. Yes?
So why was it decided to send high school to Northeastern KRHS middle school?
That's a great question, and not one that I can say I can easily answer, because ultimately,
What was the question?
the question is what was the deciding factor in making the decision to have one be the high school or Northeastern be the high school and Kenton Ridge be the middle school? I believe it was a number of factors, and now I'm kind of speaking for the board, and again, this may be a better question to ask them individually, but as what was shared at the board meeting, they had different reasons for different pieces of that. Transportation potentially being one, different programming, size of programming, all of those played in, I believe, to each individual board member's decision. Okay? And it wasn't a unanimous vote. Very difficult decision. And again, I'm going to keep reiterating, one we never want to have to use. Yes?
So you gave us the budget and what would be saved for the plan that, we're going to go for Plan B. So was that same concept done for all the different options that were being looked at to see what was saved? Because obviously there's more students from KR that would have to go to Northeastern.
Okay, the question is when we looked at the consolidation plans, were there details provided in terms of, in terms of transportation cost or other costs that would need to happen to be able to make that? And the answer to that is yes. And there was a document that was shared at that board meeting that showed, again, those different options and the costs or the savings for each.
Is that posted anywhere?
I'm not sure that we have that one posted online, but we can definitely get it posted online, okay? I can tell you this, and this may or may not make sense, but as you look at any option, the one that saves the most money may not always be the best option, or the one that doesn't save the most money may or may not be the best option. A lot of it's going to depend on how you look at it, and what you look at in terms of which program you may be really wanting to see be, the one that you champion, and that may be better offered on one side of the district or the other.
I'm just curious of what
Sure.
the layout was.
No, absolutely, we have that, and if I don't get it posted, remind me, send me an email, and I'll definitely make sure we get that put out there, okay? Yes?
I have the slide for that proposal where Northeastern would be the middle school and Canton Ridge would be the high school, and the savings was, looks like, 1,284,000, so almost 1.3, which would be more savings than that plan. It just doesn't make sense to me. If we're all about savings and we want to be trim and mean, how do you pick a plan that saves less?
It's a great question. How do you pick a plan that saves less? And again, I'll go back to what I already answered. There are a lot of facets that make up each one of those plans. And those facets are things that the board members considered as they came to their decision. Yes?
So again, I don't want to keep beating.
I don't know that I think it makes that much sense to say we're going to spend a lot of time doing that, okay? And reason being is because I don't know that it gets us any farther forward. And I really would like to see us as a community continue to move forward. When I took this job, I knew it wasn't going to be easy because we have definitely different populations on different sides of the district. A little bit different culture on different sides of the district. But my task was to bring us together, to figure out whether we could come up with a building plan. Was it 2 high schools or 1? We've done a lot of community engagement to try and get to a plan that we can get past and be able to get our students what they need in new facilities. So, and again, I think maybe that might be a better question to ask individually.
Sure.
Okay? Because I don't know, again, there's going to be pros and cons to any of these plans. It depends. Okay? November. We didn't share a plan in November. 2 reasons for that. Number 1, we didn't have a plan. And number 2, we weren't in a position where we had to make that critical choice of saying we absolutely have to consolidate for our budget to stay out of the red.
So,
We're there now.
so how are the people, thanks to everybody for attending, but there's a lot of people in this district that aren't here. How is that being portrayed to those individuals to say, I'm not a Facebook guy, I'm not an Instagram guy? How is it being sold to the rest of the community that this is going to be very bad if this doesn't work?
The question is, I think, is how are we getting that message out for our current plan,
Sure.
and then what happens if that current plan doesn't pass, okay? And believe me, we're reaching out, these types of forums, and it's being done video, it's out there live. Obviously, things are being posted on Facebook. We're going to have a newsletter that I guarantee is going to go out before the levy this time. We no longer have that printing company working for us that we had the snafu with the last time. I apologize for that, because that information, there was a great deal of information in that newsletter that hopefully would have helped some people decide one way or the other what they needed to do. That will be going out here shortly, okay? The levy committee is trying to put a lot of...
HI will come out here and look at all these schools and see how bad shape.
I'll be honest with you, the best way that we can get the message out is for each and every one of you who's here tonight to talk to your neighbors, And your friends?
Go to the schools yourself. I volunteered in these schools, all right? These schools, I voted no last time. I'll admit that, okay? And I volunteered in our schools, and I realized how dilapidated and how crappy they actually are. So if you need to see it for yourself, go see it for yourself.
We're happy to conduct tours any point in time. You know, we're happy just, again, give me a call, give a principal a call, let us know. We'll be happy to do that. We would ask that you call ahead, though. Trying to see you. All right. Leanne Costello, who is our levy chair.
We, for one, this failure of the past bond issue fired a lot of people up. And we have more volunteers than we've ever had, which is incredible. The people that have stepped up has been amazing. Just today, we scheduled a parade in South Vienna, a parade in Northridge. We have a pep rally and Feet on the Street event that will be Sunday. We'll have both bands playing. We will have entertainment. We will have speakers from students to staff members to community members, getting people fired up and excited. And 250 more that will be arriving this Friday, 200 more after that. We have never had the response from the community like we're having now. Christy, what are we doing?
I just want everyone to know, like, I didn't help last time, but this time I said, I maybe don't like what that looks like. But just step up. Do something. Get the word out. We are not hired by the district to go get the word out. We are just moms, parents, community members. I think people think we're like, we're heading up that Facebook site. Maybe you're not on Facebook, I'm sorry. I am though. And so that's how I communicate with the world. And so that's my little part is get these videos. We're getting the videos together, testimonies of people supporting us.
Who's helping to work with that, we'll be happy to again, get information to you about what can be done. Okay, so back over here, question? Okay, question is are we going to send out a one call? Yes, we can send out one calls from the district. I just can't say vote yes. So yes, there will be a one call going out reminding people of the actual voting day. We'll actually be doing one probably tomorrow, reminding people of the fact that if they're not registered to vote, that they can get registered to vote and giving them the website or the location that they can get registered to vote. It's an informational item. Yeah, it has to be done by April 9th, I believe. So that will go out tomorrow, and it will still give people a couple days to try and get that done. You can actually do it online. It doesn't take a lot of time. As long yeah. Modulars, what do modulars look like? Okay. Modulars look like house trailers. Okay. Here's the sad part. They would probably be the best air-conditioned, ventilated spaces that we have in any of our buildings. But in terms of saying safety-wise, they're going to be as safe as being inside of a physical brick structure, that wouldn't be true. But we would put them in locations, again, off the beaten path and not, again, a lot of access, and trying to do that and look at security as we decide where those would go. Again, I hope we don't ever have to do that. Okay? Other questions? Yes? What would happen to Rolling Hills in the consolidation plan? Okay, it could be a number of things. That space could be rented out. Okay, the Educational Service Center in Clark County is looking for space for special needs classrooms. It could go and possibly be something that could be used in that vein. Could it be demolished? It potentially could be. But again, obviously that costs money as well to do that. And I don't know that we would go to that expense first until we decide this is absolutely the plan we're moving forward with. And not that it's not a plan we're moving forward with, but how does it work? And can we maintain that way? Okay? Yes, second question.
Under the consolidation plan, are we going to be losing teachers, consolidating the middle school?
Teachers from Rolling Hill, from South Vienna and Northridge would be coming into one location here at Kenton Ridge.
Cut staff. Are we going to lose staff?
We would be, again, that is part of the savings of that $1 million, okay? By bringing everyone together, we can control that class size and be able to, again, be a little more efficient with that. In the back.
that is going out to the community. You mentioned that our housing values are going to...
Proof that I can absolutely guarantee that that would happen that way. That might be something that the levy committee would consider, saying that that's something stature of your school district, okay? So that is definitely a part of it, but as far as, you know, whether we would put that out there and say your housing values are going to drop if you don't pass this bond issue, wouldn't be something that I would say we're going to tout as coming from the district.
I feel like it is too.
Yes, sir. I'm sorry. Yes, ma'am.
For those people that are thinking that if this fails and then we do a consolidation plan and then down the road we decide we want to do a one huge building school halfway between here and Northeastern, I had heard that if we do something like that, we will be required to put in a really expensive water tower system to handle that amount of students to the point that it would cost so much money. That's why we're better off building one campus here, because we can tap into Northridge's sewage water system. Same thing on South Vienna. So is that rumor, or what do you know about that?
I'm not even sure how to phrase that as a question. I get what you're saying, Kay. I think your question is, and just so you know, the reason I'm repeating the questions or trying to get it is so we get it on the video as well, so everybody can hear it. The question is if the plan doesn't pass and we do consolidation and go into a single high school, okay, could potentially down the road, a couple years, 5 years, a levy be put on the ballot to build a single complex somewhere in the central area of the district, okay? Is that your question? I think mainly.
Because I think there's some people that still want us to go back to one large school in the middle of the district. But financially, I heard that was going to be really, really, really expensive because we would be required to have that much water. We would be required to put in our own water tower, like we have here in Northridge, to have the, you know, and the water system that you would have to put out there in the county, you know.
Sure.
That it would be so much money. We're going to save a lot of money having maybe two separate ones.
Okay, and I think there's a second part then to your question of what are the costs if we would do that type of facility.
Yeah.
Okay, so the answer to the first part of the question, could potentially a bond issue come down the road if we don't pass this one to build a single high school with some location to be determined, okay, that doesn't have sewer and water? Okay, the answer to us, if it's put in a location that doesn't have sewer and water, yes, I believe you would need to have a water tower to be able to maintain a facility that size, which obviously would be expensive. Okay? Same thing with, you know, a sewer type system. Okay? I can tell you that I tried to do, as we were looking at who wanted to even think about selling me the land somewhere centrally located. Then you also have some concerns with Buck Creek that anything you do in terms of a sewer system has to guarantee that it's not ever going to get into Buck Creek. So there are a lot of restrictions with that, depending on, again, where that land might be. So, you know, I don't know that I kind of want to spend a lot of time trying to address your, but yes, it would be more expensive to build where there isn't sewer and water. That's for sure. Okay? Can it be done? It has been. Okay? If you've been by Miami East.
People that are here tonight are probably Kenton Ridge district people, I'm assuming.
We could have people from all over the district.
So when you consolidate, when you put the Kenton Ridge high school kids out in Northeastern, will they be the Cougars or the Jets?
What would the mascot be? Okay? Crystal ball to say it would absolutely be that. Okay? And I don't want to try and make that a big sticking point one way or the other.
This plan for if this doesn't pass and we have to do all this moving around, does that have to be approved by the state?
The question is if we go to the consolidation plan, do those plans have to be approved by the state? And the answer is they don't have to be approved by the state because they're not co-funded by the state or the OFCC, okay, or not that group. But anything that we would do in terms of modifications to the property would require any types of building permits, We would, I'm sure, have to have permits for the mosque.
Isn't there something out there about we're already in a restricted district or something that if that 41 million that they're offering, I think it's the government or whatever that's going to pay for that 41, isn't, if it doesn't pass this time, it's very possible that that could go away?
Okay, great question. The OFCC funding and the 40% matching dollars for the educational facilities, is that a guarantee that that will always be there? Okay, and the answer to that question is it's not a guarantee. Okay, but I would tell you this, and you've been around here long enough, the last bond issues that were put on also had matching dollars from the OSFC, now the OFCC, and it was probably stated that those dollars are going to go away if we don't pass the bond issue. And here we are again saying we have potential to tap into those. The OFCC approves your plan for up to 13 months. You have 13 months to get that plan passed. If you don't get that passed in 13 months, you become known as a lapsed district, which means you then have to pass your bond issue before you can get the money, which you had to do anyways. You basically have to reapply, put your master plan together, get approval for your master plan, get the bond issue passed, and you have an opportunity to come back again. Now, that is the process right now, but the OFCC, well, I think it's obviously a pretty powerful program for them, and I think they get a lot of bang for their buck with that in saying we're building schools, we're helping school districts. If the state hits a budget crunch and they can't afford to spend that money, that program could go away. So it isn't a guarantee. Right now we do have the guarantee. We have been approved by the OFCC for the 40% matching dollars. And this is a big project at approximately $120 million. 2 large campuses. It would be an attractive project for construction companies, for design firms, but there's no guarantee that those dollars down the road will be there, and there's no guarantee that we can make this a cheaper project down the road. As a matter of fact, it's almost guaranteed it'll come back. Other questions? Yes?
How does this affect open enrollment? They close the door on open enrollment.
Consolidation would definitely affect open enrollment. Okay, it would still be looked at as, and saying, okay, do we have classroom space? And do we have seats that we can put open enrollment students at say, a particular grade level? And that would be affected by what exactly do we have space-wise. Okay? Very likely it would definitely.
Or we are considered a lapsed district right now.
We are a lapsed district right now.
So if we lapse again?
I don't know that there's a limit on the number of lapses.
Okay.
Okay, I don't know that. I remember my other for May the 9th. Because we want to make sure we get on that time frame to do that year of planning and not have to see it be longer than that. And if you've ever dealt with the bureaucracy, you know that sometimes they're a little slower than you'd like them to be. So trying to get that moving as quickly as possible when we get this passed. Getting that set up ahead of time. Getting one. I'm happy to stay and answer more questions, as is Mike. I'm sure our board members would be as well. Thank you very much for coming. If you want to hear your question on video, go watch it tonight. All right? Get out there and talk to your neighbors. Thank you. Have a great evening.